Okay, I think we can start now. So thank you very much to the 19 participants who joined us. Welcome to this workshop about best practices to support language volunteers. Bienvenue à cet atelier sur la formation des instructeurs bénévoles. First of all, we would like to start by acknowledging the land. So New Language Solution is based in Ottawa, Ontario. We acknowledge that our head office is on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people. Beyond Ottawa, we have staff working in locations across Canada, reflecting on the hospitality shown to us. New Language Solutions est reconnaissant d'avoir l'opportunité de travailler en tant qu'invité dans des communautés et territoires à travers le pays. Et nous honorons la gestion de nombreuses populations autochtones qui résident sur ces terres depuis des temps immémoriaux. So, you are attending a workshop titled Promising Practice, actually, at the Pathway to Prosperity Conference. This is a bilingual presentation. The presentation slideshow is available in both English and French, and you can download the files from the conference platform. Vous assistez à un atelier nommé Pratique exemplaire par la conférence Voie vers la prospérité. Il s'agit d'une présentation bilingue. Le diaporama de la présentation est disponible en anglais et en français, et vous pouvez télécharger le fichier dans la plateforme de conférence. So, who are the speakers today? Qui sont les intervenants? So we have Marika Goetz. Yeah, she's waving, who is, so she works for NLS, New Language Solution. She is the TBLV coordinator, content developer, and Learn IT to Teach mentor. Welcome, Marika. We also have Matthias Sturm, who works for NLS as well, New Language Solution. He is our lead evaluator and researcher. Finalement, nous avons également Gilles Aubry, mon collègue, s'il veut faire signe pour se présenter. Gilles Aubry, concepteur de cours et coordonnateur AFIB. Finalement, nous avons moi-même, donc Sophie Bonny, responsable du département FLS CLIC d'Avenue et conceptrice de cours et mentor. Donc ici, here we show you a screenshot of the promising practices. If you want to hear even more about what we do for training volunteers, we would invite you to the conference website and see their promising practice section. Now, Marika is going to talk to us about the agenda today.
Thank you, merci Sophie. Bienvenue à tous. Welcome everybody. So in this workshop, we will have several polls and Padlet questions about working with volunteers in a language training program. To start off, we will give you some background information about working with volunteers. We will discuss what volunteers can do in a settlement language program and what kind of training you think is helpful. Then we will explain what TBLV and the French AFIB are and show you some of the course content. We will also explain how you can partner with NLS to deliver either of these free courses. And finally, hopefully we will have some time for Q&A. So TBLV is TESOL Basics for Language Volunteers, and it's a training course for volunteers. It has been piloted between 2017 and 2020, and since 2021 has been offered through IRCC-funded nonprofit organizations across Canada. Since 2023, we also offer a French program to train volunteers, and this is l'AFIB. And you see both of the logos there. And l'AFIB means l'ABC du FLS pour instructeurs bénévoles. And today, you're going to learn more about both of these programs. Back to you, Sophie.
Merci, Marika. Thank you very much, Marika. So we would like to have your opinion now, please, on the topics you think volunteers need training in. So here is a poll. Please, Ryan, could you launch poll number 2, please? So please vote for the 3 topics you think volunteers need training on. Donc, merci de voter pour ceux qui notre audience francophone. Merci de voter pour les 3 sujets pour lesquels vous pensez que les volontaires, les bénévoles ont besoin de formation. Merci. We're going to leave like 1 minute for you to vote, please. Okay, so if everybody has voted, thank you so much. Ryan, could you close the poll and launch the results, please? Thank you very much, Ryan. So let's take a look at how you voted on which topic should be covered in an introductory course for volunteers. Later on, we will share with you which topics we decided to include in our volunteer course. Luckily, we have Matthias, our lead evaluator and researcher, and he's going to analyze our results. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. Well, it looks like 53% chose language for daily activities, langage pour les activités quotidiennes. And not too far behind, there's 2 choices with 47%, which is 7 out of the 15 respondents who voted. Lower level and literacy learners, apprenants des niveaux débutants et ou moins alphabétisés, and pronunciation. So those are, yeah, interesting. Oh, and no, I forgot the one on top here, 53%. Understanding CLB levels. Yeah, that's a big one. Comprendre les niveaux NCLC. C'est parfait. Merci, Ryan. Thank you, Ryan. Let's move on and give you a little bit of research background. An interesting question to ask is, why do people want to volunteer? So during our background research, we found a few sources that informed our approach. In 2014, Stukas et al. Stated that in general, volunteers sought to express pro-social and humanitarian values through action, to learn more about the world, other people and their own skills, and to feel needed. The research also showed that volunteers wanted to be there, whether they are coaching a sports team, volunteering at an event, or helping newcomers. Only a very small portion of volunteers are told by an employer to volunteer or doing the work to gain experience to put on their resume, for example. En juin 2020, la Direction de la Recherche et de l'Évaluation des services d'IRCC a publié le rapport intitulé en anglais Evaluation of Language Training. Ce rapport met en évidence la nécessité d'offrir davantage de formations et de soutien à l'apprentissage informel pour favoriser la progression linguistique. En d'autres termes, il est avantageux pour les apprenants de participer à des activités d'apprentissage informel en dehors de
Okay, it looks like Matthias froze.
Une formation complétée par 3 fois plus d'apprentissage informel a un impact beaucoup plus important sur les pratiques des individus et sur les programmes auxquels ils contribuent, quel que soit dans un cadre professionnel ou bénévole. Ces idées sous-jacentes soutiennent les approches des TPLV et de la FIB qui intègrent une formation formelle enrichie par divers éléments informels afin d'optimiser les résultats de formation. And back to you,
Merci.
Sophie.
Oui, merci beaucoup, Matthias. So now we will be looking at further background and research in a bit. Right now, I invite you to think about your own organization, program, or class. Which activities would you be comfortable to delegate to a language volunteer? Please choose as many as you want this time. There are 2 questions about volunteer support in the in-person classroom and in the online classroom, because there might be a little difference. So please, Ryan, if you don't mind launching Zoom poll number 3 in the conference presentation, please. Thank you. Merci. Et nous avons également la deuxième question également dans ce sondage. De quelle façon un bénévole peut-il aider une salle de classe en ligne et à distance cette fois? Vous pouvez choisir autant de réponses que vous le souhaitez. Nous allons laisser 1 minute parce que c'est assez long de lire toutes les réponses. We're going to give a minute so you have time to read the 2 questions and all the answers, and please choose as many as you want. Okay, 15 seconds. 15 secondes, s'il vous plaît. Thank you very much, Ryan. Could you close the poll and launch the results, please? Merci beaucoup. Matthias, peux-tu analyser ces résultats, s'il te plaît?
Oui, Sophie. 91% conversation partner, partenaire de conversation. Wow. What else is there? That's a pretty big number there. 55, 2 choices of 55, monitor and support, accompagnant et soutien, and photocopy and handout pages, photocopie et distribution des documents. Oui, mais c'est quand même significatif, le 91% pour partenaire de conversation, conversation partner. C'est un grand nombre. Merci. Thank you, Ryan.
Oops. Okay. Thank you very much, Matthias. Merci pour cette analyse, et thank you so much to everyone who participated in the poll. That's much appreciated. It's very useful for us as well. So thank you. Now,
excellent. Yes. So
back to Matthias.
Thank you, Sophie. So when developing TBLB, we conducted a needs assessment with link instructors and coordinators and asked, how can a volunteer support teachers in the in-person classroom? So exactly the same question we just asked you. In the needs assessment, there were 25 respondents, and 3/4 of them said that work one-on-one, monitor and support, and group work with a teacher were the areas where volunteers could best provide support in classrooms in person. And here are the answers to the questions about how a volunteer can provide support in online classes, also from the same needs assessment. 87% chose work one-on-one with students. 79% chose 3 options. Participants in online classes, work with one group at one time while the teacher does something else, and participate in a role play so the teacher is also freed up. It's interesting. But I'll hand it over to you, Mareike, because we got lots more to cover.
Yeah. Well, it's really nice to see those results and the different things that a volunteer can do. But having a language volunteer in your class doesn't just make a difference to support the teacher. A language volunteers can also make a huge difference for language learners. So they can work one-on-one, as we've seen. They can give extra support to learners either during or after the class, which helps them make faster progression. So in our needs assessment, we also asked instructors about the topics and activities they would want volunteers to work on with students. And these were the results from that survey. And this is a weighted average out of 19 items. So at the top, learning vocabulary, 86%, talking about the news, 77%, playing games, always fun, 74%. So those are some of the activities. Back to you, Matthias. Do you have more research for us?
I do. Even more research, yes. When it comes to training language volunteers, training should include not only pre-service introductions, but consistent support during their instructional practice, including invitations to reflect and dialogue about their teaching. That's what Schaffelbarger wrote in 2021. With these kinds of supports, volunteers will be more successful in their teaching practices, whether that is in the classroom, leading a conversation circle, or working one-on-one. The result is more effective volunteering that will help newcomers improve their language skills, and volunteers in turn develop feelings of competence and efficacy that will keep them motivated and engaged. Et en 2019, Durham et Kim ont dit, il existe des domaines communs dans lesquels les instructeurs bénévoles peuvent présenter les lacunes, ce qui inclut la connaissance des apprenants adultes en langue seconde et de leur processus d'apprentissage, des méthodes d'enseignement efficaces adaptées au parcours des apprenants adultes en anglais ou français langue seconde, ainsi que des connaissances interculturelles pertinentes. We would also like to ask you now how you currently train your volunteers, or if you are not yet working with volunteers, what kind of training do you think would be effective? And why do you think it's important to train volunteers? We have a Padlet for you that you can contribute to. Please follow the link to it and share your ideas. The link is in the chat, or you can use the QR code that you see here on the screen. Let's take about 5 minutes to answer the questions on the Padlet and to review some of the responses. To add a comment, you can click on the plus sign, and or you can click on the heart underneath a submission, a post, if you like a comment that is already there. If we have time in the end, we can come back and discuss these questions a little bit more.
Ryan, please. Sorry, Matthias. Ryan, please. I shared the link, but I could only share it with the host and panelists. So maybe if you don't mind sharing the same link I pasted to everyone, that would be great, please. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Sophie. And oh, I see our favorite contributor, Mareike, has posted a comment. I love it. We don't have any official training for volunteers, and this is actually a comment from that we received in an earlier Padlet that we reposted. But when they come into my classroom, I will give them a quick orientation, but mostly my volunteers get a crash course by doing hands-on work. And
okay, well, thank you very much. If you are still working on it, it will appear. Yeah, it will appear all your contributions. So if you click on the plus sign, they will appear.
Thank you, Sophie. Do we have something else that we want to highlight here? Oh yeah, Mareike put really nice instructions there in French. Yeah. Oh, Padlet is refreshing. Excellent. Thank you, Sophie. Do we have any new ones here? Any new submissions already? No, people still writing?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to refresh, but I think it appears. I don't think you need to refresh. So please tell us about how you currently train your volunteers. Comment formez-vous vos bénévoles? Et pourquoi est-il important de proposer une formation? Matthias, maybe you could read the Soutien par les pairs de Francine.
Oui, permettre aux bénévoles expérimenter, d'accompagner les nouveaux bénévoles dans leur travail. And on how do you currently train your volunteers? Online sessions, an online session with coordinators, observing 2 to 3 sessions, a weekly debrief and sharing session with all volunteers after the online class. Okay.
Okay, well, we can leave maybe 1 more minute. If you have lots of ideas, please share them with us.
Yeah, and that's okay. The Padlet will stay open. So if you want to contribute to it during the session or even after the session, that would be great, because it's really good for us to get. And we're collecting all the comments that we're getting, and it's really good information that helps us improve our services too. Okay, so Marika.
Yes, let me tell you a little bit more about this program. So at the start of the workshop, you voted for the topic that you think should be included in volunteer training. And when TBLV was developed, we conducted a needs assessment, as we told you, and identified which topics would need to be prioritized in the TESOL Basics for Language Volunteers program. So then TBLV was developed to give volunteers some theoretical background, but also to build understanding and awareness to work with the newcomers. And it also gives lots of practical suggestions. And so the 7 topics that we identified from the needs assessment are the introduction to terminology and CLDs, working with lower level learners and literacy learners, providing action-oriented feedback and tips to practice pronunciation, using materials from the real world, realia, daily life and employment. Number 6, Canadian culture and citizenship. And 7th, remote volunteering. We want to be clear that although the course has 7 topics, it is very flexible, and volunteers don't have to take the entire course before they start volunteering. But we'll tell you more about that in a little bit. So this is what the course on Avenue looks like. So you can see the list of topics on the left in the navigation drawer, which if you click on it, it leads to the topic on the main page. So the TBLV course is offered on Avenue, and it is self-paced, but the time commitment for volunteers is about 2 to 2.5 hours per week. We therefore suggest that you release a new topic at regular intervals, for example, 1 topic each week. Volunteers then complete self-correcting activities, and they participate in online discussion forums. We also added a course help section, and there's an introduction video for volunteers that explains how to do some of the activities. And because the course is facilitated asynchronously, coaches can offer support and engage with the volunteers in the forums and through email, maybe even through Zoom. So here's an example of the 2nd topic in the course. Each unit contains core readings or a TBLV movie, which is provided in an H5P interactive book. Those books contain a variety of activities to test understanding and to practice the application of the information. The participant's main task, however, is to participate in the forum discussion and respond to the information and questions in each unit and share their own experience with that. And there's also extra credit for volunteers who want to deepen their understanding. There's always those gung-ho people who want to know more. Activity tracking has been turned on, which means that a check mark will automatically appear in the box beside the activity once that activity has been completed. And here's a quick peek inside the interactive book. And you can see again, the index is on the left-hand side. and there's progress and navigation arrows in the top right. Each interactive book has the same components. So there's a video, a text, self-correcting activities, and a glossary, which creates a consistent approach for the participants because every book is set up in the same way. But how do participants feel about this training, Matthias?
Yes, thank you, Marijke. So there are currently 20 programs across Canada where coaches use TBLV to train volunteers, and the number continues to grow. Here are some stats from our TBLV partners from September 2024. By the end of the TBLV course, 85% of participants felt prepared or very prepared to be a volunteer after taking the course. And I'd like to show you some more stats that we're very proud of. We asked participants if the TBLV training course helped them. All agreed or strongly agreed that the course helped them to improve their understandings of teaching ESL to adult learners. Almost all agreed or strongly agreed that it helped them to increase their motivation to work with newcomers and to share information.
I'm sorry, it looks like Matthias has froze a little bit. Marijke, could you take over, please?
Good communication with volunteers, the interactive elements of the course, and the synchronous element through Zoom. Especially valued were quick responses and personal advice from coaches, but also more interactive time with participants on the forum was noted as important. Each coach had the freedom to change the training to fit their needs. So that was an important point to mention as well. Now, Gilles will tell you all about the Francophone version of TBLV that's called La FIB.
Alors, merci beaucoup, Mathias. Donc, maintenant, nous allons aborder la formation qui est offerte en français aux bénévoles. Donc, les sujets abordés dans la FIB sont similaires à ceux du TBLV, mais la FIB n'est pas une simple traduction du TBLV. C'est une version spécialement conçue en français. Par exemple, toutes les vidéos de formation ont été entièrement refaites. Les textes, les lectures, les quiz sont adaptés aux défis spécifiques des apprenants de français langue seconde. Et bien sûr, la formation inclut des informations sur les différentes régions du Canada où le français est parlé, comme par exemple l'Acadie, l'Ontario, la Colombie-Britannique. Les aspects abordant la culture francophone et notamment la francophonie en situation minoritaire ont également leur place dans cette formation. Comme vous pouvez le constater, chaque sujet abordé dans la fibre offre également une variété d'activités, de ressources, allant du livre interactif aux tests et forums. Et si vous souhaitez en apprendre davantage sur la fibre, écrivez à soutien@avenue.ca. Les thèmes abordés dans la fibre sont les suivants. Alors, la terminologie des NCLC, travailler avec des apprenants de niveau de base, en alphabétisation, fournir de la rétroaction sur la prononciation, utiliser des documents de la vie réelle, la vie quotidienne et l'emploi, la culture francophone et la citoyenneté canadienne et le bénévolat à distance. Par contre, les thèmes encadrés sont ceux qui ont été spécialement adaptés pour les bénévoles qui vont enseigner ou travailler en français. Alors, voici maintenant quelques exemples. Voici un exemple du contenu de la formation qui a été entièrement adapté, entre autres, pour l'alphabétisation. Alors, comme vous le voyez, il y a des vidéos de présentation, etc. Également, il y a un exemple ici d'une partie d'un quiz qui est proposé aux bénévoles pour vérifier leur compréhension de l'alphabétisation. Également, une autre partie, bien entendu, qui a été entièrement refaite, puisque la prononciation française est bien différente de la prononciation anglaise. Donc, toute cette partie a été revue et adaptée aux difficultés que représente la prononciation de la langue française. Au niveau de l'emploi également, nous avons adapté les présentations, entre autres pour sensibiliser les bénévoles aux avantages d'être bilingue. Il s'agit ici d'une vidéo qui est suivie d'un quiz. Et finalement, pour la culture et tout ce qui touche la francophonie en milieu minoritaire, nous avons évidemment choisi des exemples pertinents, comme entre autres ici la culture acadienne. Et pour ceux qui connaissent cette culture acadienne, vous reconnaîtrez sans difficulté Antonine Maillet. C'est donc ce qui différencie la FIB du TBLV.
Merci beaucoup, Gilles. Here are some testimonials of how great volunteers are. So we have volunteers enable the students to really express themselves. Volunteers also offer the one-on-one support that's necessary. One-on-one support is something you've actually all identified in the poll. You were all saying that one-on-one is the obvious task for volunteers, so thank you very much. So you were right. Les bénévoles interviennent en tant que facilitateurs, mentors, animateurs de cercles de conversation et accompagnateurs pour les événements. So now that we are all convinced about how wonderful it is to have volunteers in the classroom, whether online or in person, the question remains, how do we get volunteers? Do volunteers find you, or do you have to find them? Do you use social media, participate in events in your community to connect with people who might be interested? Or do you even have a volunteer coordinator? Please post your current recruitment strategies to this Padlet. We will share the link. And Ryan, if you can share the link that Marika is sharing as well, please. So please post your current recruitment strategies to this Padlet. Nous vous invitons à partager vos stratégies actuelles de recrutement sur ce Padlet. Vos idées sont précieuses pour nous aider à renforcer notre réseau de bénévoles. Donc, merci beaucoup d'y participer. Voilà, donc nous avons déjà, nous avons remis des posts que nous avons eus dans nos présentations précédentes. So here are already some posts that were already on our Padlets that Marika copied and pasted here, or that we in French, just to give you ideas as well. We would love your ideas. So again, you can press the little plus sign, which is it can be seen at the bottom as well, a little plus sign, and then you post your ideas, suggestion, and we would love to see them. For example, here we had Martin who posted in a previous workshop. Aller à la rencontre des nouveaux arrivants francophones et des étudiants dans les collèges francophones et leur proposer de faire du bénévolat. Cela leur permettrait d'acquérir une première expérience canadienne. So volunteering is like a win-win situation as well. So that's how you can convince volunteers to volunteer. We also have volunteer coordinators who does community liaising. So that's a very good strategy. We have in French, again, contacter des organisations comme la COFA, créer des partenariats stratégiques. Demander aux partenaires de publier des annonces de recherche de bénévoles sur leurs réseaux sociaux. So here it's, I can translate it in English. So you must be, a good idea would be to contact local organizations like COFA for the Francophone sector, but I'm sure in English across Canada, you would have those organizations, and then create strategic partnership with them. Marika will tell us about a strategic partnership later on, but this was one of the ideas. So if you want to share an idea, please do. I'm going to refresh to see if someone shared it. You will also be welcome at the end of the session to give us your idea. Let's say you didn't get a chance to participate in the Padlet. So thank you. 1 more minute to participate, please. So thank you very much if you participated, or maybe you kept your ideas for the end of the workshop, and I would love to hear them. We would love to hear them. So how do we find volunteers? So to help you with this, we have created, we provide you promotional material. We also created 2 YouTube videos. They are on the New Language Solution YouTube channel, where you can find 2 videos, one called Why Volunteer, and the other one called Why TBLV. So these 2 videos will help you convince volunteers to volunteer for you. Also, please know that training volunteers would lower the barrier because they will feel confident enough to go. Les bénévoles pourraient hésiter à travailler avec les nouveaux arrivants car ils ne savent pas comment enseigner l'anglais ou le français comme langue seconde. En sachant qu'ils recevront une formation adéquate de base en ISL ou FLS, ainsi qu'une initiation à l'utilisation de l'ordinateur, ces réticences pourraient diminuer et encourager davantage de personnes à s'engager comme bénévoles. Well, back to you, Marika.
Yes, thank you. And I do look forward to reading more ideas on the Padlets. Like you mentioned, Sophie, those will be available. They're live, and even after the conference, they'll still be there. And if you want to know more about Avenue, you can also go to avenue.ca/TBLV. And then if you scroll down, you will see a list, you will see those videos, you will see a list of frequently asked questions and a list of our partners. So I'll share some more information about the partnerships. Under our current service delivery agreement with IRCC, New Language Solutions is able to create partnerships with other IRCC-funded organizations that offer language training programs to newcomers. And so the partnership would consist of, we would train your staff to become local coaches, and that training is done online, and it takes about 3 hours. And then we will host the TBLV course for your organization, and we will assist with adaptation for local needs. But then you offer the course. So that's the partnership. Because the course is unique to your organization, you can choose to offer the entire course over 2 months or over a longer period of time. Volunteers could work with students between modules. They could do a couple before, and maybe as they work, they go through the course little by little. And you can pick and choose which topics are important for your volunteers. However, only volunteers who have completed all 7 topics would be eligible to receive a certificate. So there's the carrot and the stick. So what we're looking for in a volunteer coach, it would need to be a trained Avenue teacher, somebody who has stage 2 of Learn IT to Teach complete. They need to be committed for 3 to 5 hours per week to support local volunteers. And please note that coaches are not employed by NLS, but by their own organization. And we also ask that your volunteers complete a feedback survey about their experience, and that the coaches complete a survey about, how they worked with the program. So those surveys are really important to us because based on that feedback, we recently refreshed the TBLV course, as you could see from the screenshots in this presentation. We made it more engaging and consistent based on that feedback that we received. And we also heard from the sector and realized that similar training for volunteers was needed in employment language training programs and employment support programs. And so we're very happy to announce that TBLV Works is currently under development, and we hope to pilot it in 2025. That's it for me. Sophie, back to you.
Merci beaucoup, Marika. So wonderful. We still have time to answer questions. Nous avons le temps de répondre à vos questions, mais d'abord, first of all, we would like to let you know how to contact us if you need, if you have questions, or if you're even interested in our training. So for TBLV, please contact Marika at avenue.ca. Pour la fibre, contactez Soutien à commercial avenue.ca. The TBLV page on the Avenue portal, we have the address here, and you can find it in the chat box. Please, Ryan, if you could copy paste whatever Marika is posting, that would be great. And we also have our YouTube channel, New Language Solutions, where you can find the videos that we talked about earlier on. So now it is time for questions. So we would love to have your questions, whether they're in the chat, if we can see them, or if you can, I don't know, Ryan, could they put their hand up? How could we know if the audience has questions? All right, thank you. So any questions, anyone?
I have a question that comes up regularly. I know that, yeah, I know that I said like, oh, it takes about 2 to 2.5 hours for volunteers to do a topic. But maybe Matthias, do you have some information about how long it would take to do the entire course? Is there any feedback from our surveys on that?
There is, but I don't remember off the top of my head. It is a very good question. I have a.
Oh, Matthias froze again.
Yeah, yes.
Well, I could cheat because I do have that information. So in our feedback survey that we received from participants who took TBLV, about half of the participants say they took, yes, about half of the participants say they took less than 14 hours to do all of the units. And keep in mind, if it's 7 units and each unit takes about 2 to 2.5 hours, less than 14 hours means that they went through it quite fast. But a third took more time. And there's even a few people who took even less time. So our ballpark of 2 to 2.5 hours per unit, it's pretty spot on.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. Again, thanks for remembering that, having that handy.
Thank you.
Yes, Sophie.
Yes, thank you. I should have raised my hand with, sorry. So yeah, actually, we also get questions about how to get, Francophone volunteers, because, in a minority situation, we're like, oh, do we have volunteers? It's hard enough to find people who speak French. Now you need to convince them to speak French and volunteer. But Gilles had wonderful ideas. So I would like Gilles to share the ideas on how to find like minorities or francophone volunteers. Gilles, à toi. You can do it in French or in English. Maybe in English?
Merci. Ben, je vais le faire en français parce que ça concerne quand même les francophones principalement. Donc, essentiellement, dans chaque région, il y a des associations de francophones qui sont assez militantes et très bien organisées, qui ont leur propre site web, qui ont leur propre revue, qui ont des pages web également. Et c'est en contactant ces associations-là et en leur expliquant en quoi ça consiste de pouvoir être bénévole pour aider des nouveaux arrivants à apprendre le français, qu'on peut éventuellement recruter des bénévoles. Il y a également dans certaines régions des associations de retraités de tout âge et qui parfois se cherchent je dirais pas un travail, mais une occupation intéressante. Et c'est là aussi un endroit où on peut aller éventuellement présenter ce qu'est la FIB et aller recruter des bénévoles. Il y a également des groupes communautaires francophones évidemment, qui aussi, peut-être pour des questions de premier emploi, vont être à la recherche d'opportunités de travail. Et c'est là également qu'on peut aller recruter des bénévoles en expliquant bien sûr en quoi consiste le travail et quels sont les avantages que ces personnes-là peuvent en retirer. Donc les moyens ne manquent pas, les ressources sont là. Il faut cependant trouver les personnes qui vont être à même d'aller contacter toutes ces organisations-là.
Merci beaucoup, Gilles. Thank you so much. So if you understood French and what Gilles was saying, what he's saying, the bottom line is impossible is not French, if I may say. So Matthias, you had ideas as well that you could suggest, but before that, someone who names himself or herself SA shared something that they do on the Padlet. So how do your volunteers find you? So apparently social media and community events is a good key to find volunteers. So thank you very much for this, for the attendee who put this comment. Matthias, you had an idea maybe, or maybe you froze. Okay. Marika, what are the other questions you always get asked when you do this presentation?
If I can share an example.
Yeah.
Of why volunteer training is so important. And I've been a teacher in a linked classroom and in employment training programs for quite a while. At one point, I had a volunteer in a training program for home care, sorry, lost the word there. So somebody came into the classroom and all of the students wanted to find a job in a home care situation. And so I had the volunteer pretend to be an elderly person who had a glass of water and they needed to take their medication. Home care workers are not allowed to give, that's the rule in Canada, they're not allowed to give medication to their clients. You know, they can give them their medication, but they have to take it. So it's a very fine line. So we had a role play for the volunteer to say like, oh, can you help me? I know the pill is so small, can you help me put it in my mouth? And the learners had to say, no, I'm sorry, like I can put it in your hands and I can give you your glass of water, but that's all that you can do. And for the volunteers to offer that opportunity for the learners to practice that conversation, which can be difficult because you have to tell no to somebody, right? Practice that conversation and feel more confident when they would go into the workplace and be confronted with things like that. So yeah, that's one example from my own experience.
I love your example. It shows how training is important. Matthias, Matthias, please, can you share anything with us?
Yes, sorry, my internet connection is a little bit unstable. I hope that works now. Yes, I was wondering if I wanted to volunteer, how would I go about that if I'm just a regular person who wants to volunteer and not a program administrator or something like that, who wants to start with offering the course and then reaching out for volunteers? What if I'm a volunteer and I want to volunteer?
Right, that's an excellent question, actually. Thank you so much, Matthias. And Marika sure has the answer.
I don't know if I have the answer. I think Gilles already mentioned how important it is that you build partnerships with local organizations, right? If you are a language training facility, if you're a SPO, building those partnerships with local volunteer organizations so that volunteers can come to you, or you can send maybe your language learners who want to have some volunteer experience, you can send them to those organizations as well. if there's just a volunteer out there, and this sometimes happens, who, they search the internet and they come across TBLV and they send us an email saying, I want to volunteer. Well, we have a list of those 20 organizations that currently offer TBLV, and hopefully very soon LeFib will also be on that list. And so our suggestion then is reach out to one of those organizations, the ones that is closest to you, because TBLV is offered and LeFib is offered online. It should be possible for you to take that training with another organization, even if you're not in that direct area in the city. And hopefully they'll be able to let you take that training if you're just a volunteer.
Thank you very much, Marika. Ryan, are there any questions? I can see you are posting all our links and email address, but can you see any question from the webinar chat that we may have not missed? Okay, that's okay. That's okay. Thank you very much anyway for those who are attending. Now we have, one day I contacted about LaFib, the Francophone version, I contacted CLIC coordinator in New Brunswick. And I was telling her, oh, what would you think? Would you like to introduce LaFib to your organization? And she said something, and that I want to share with you, because we need to be honest as well. There's also an element. She said, it's hard enough to find people who want to work, who want to teach in French, let alone doing it for free. So this is a question that we might get, and that's okay to talk about it. So then I was like, oh yeah, that's true. In this day and age, working for free would be seen, we could think it would be difficult, but no, like Matthias' research and background showed us, volunteers want to be here, and they want to feel needed. So how can we approach them to tell them it's not working for free, it's volunteering, it's completely different? And for example, in the Francophone, but also Anglophone community, you could get like newcomers or even students and tell them, well, this would be your first experience in Canada. So you're still training, they're still in postgraduate classes, but they can spare 1 or 2 hours a week, and that will be their first experience. So it's not working for free. It's like an investment. It's a return to the community. And it's also a first Canadian experience. So I think don't be shy to ask, because they can benefit a lot from volunteering. I personally have been volunteering since I'm 16 in different organization background fields. And it's very rewarding. And I you know what? I gain more than I gave. So Gilles has a comment or a question. Gilles?
Juste un commentaire. Au Canada et notamment dans de nombreuses institutions de formation, lorsqu'on fait une demande pour être admis dans un programme de formation, par exemple à l'université, éventuellement pour de nouveaux arrivants, bien souvent on doit fournir des renseignements personnels et le bénévolat est très souvent considéré comme quelque chose d'important. Donc, on ne se fie pas toujours aux notes que les personnes ont pu obtenir à l'école secondaire, mais également à ce que ces personnes-là ont fait. L'âge, évidemment, on n'est pas forcément à 16 ans, 17 ans, ça peut être des personnes plus âgées. Et le bénévolat, ici, est considéré comme une richesse. Donc, je pense que si vous parlez à des nouveaux arrivants francophones qui se cherchent un emploi, qui n'en trouvent pas tout de suite, il faut vraiment leur faire comprendre que le bénévolat est déjà une porte d'entrée, non seulement sur le marché du travail, mais également, éventuellement, au niveau collégial ou au niveau universitaire.
Well, yes, exactly. So what Gilles said was amazing. So I'm going to translate it. So Gilles was saying that in Canada, particularly, volunteering is very highly regarded. And this is something like in libraries or whatever. He was giving the example, especially in libraries, because the libraries are actually the place where you think that there will be a lot of volunteers actually, and a lot of people can volunteer in a library, even giving language courses. So they just need the training, but they are really willing to do so. And like Gilles was saying, it's like volunteering is actually like it's one step towards the work environment, towards working and being on the labor market, the employment market. So yeah, volunteering is very good. I've already seen, because I recruit people as well as a project lead, I've already seen people, and actually I do it myself, having a volunteer section on their CV. And that's very important as well. And it's seen as something, yeah, being generous as well, but also you're learning a lot. Marika?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with everything that's being said. There are, if I look at the participants who are currently in TBLV, and I don't have exact numbers, Matthias might have to look at the survey for that, but I know that there are high-level link learners like CLB 7, 8, who take the TLB training so that they can volunteer in lower level classes. So then it comes full circle, and it gives them some really good experience, as you say, to put on their resume. And another group of volunteers that we see are people who've retired, that are a little bit older. They're not part of the workforce anymore, but they still want to be part of a community and you know, having those social connections, which is also super important for newcomers to build their network and build those relationships. And that's actually the reason why we have this help video at the beginning, and why we try to keep everything as simple as possible. So for the elder participants, volunteers who might not be super comfortable with technology, you know, they get that support, they get that help, and they can still take the training.
Yeah, thank you, Marika. And actually, thank you very much, because this is a perfect transition to another workshop happening this afternoon about digital equity. So maybe Matthias can talk to us about it, because yeah, you're right, volunteers. So I've had that question actually. Well, if we get retired people to volunteer, how are they going to do an online course? Well, I think this will be their gain, because you know, it's a 2-in-1. They will learn, they will build confidence, and in today's environment, we need, even to make a simple doctor's appointment, usually you need you need to do it online, or even submit something online. So that volunteers code, that TBLV, Marika is at the origin of it, and I thank her for that. And that's why she was elected promising practice. So well done again, Marika. But yes, that's the gain for retired people. They would gain confidence online. And Matthias, would you like to talk about our workshop this afternoon?
Sure. I don't think we want to give too much away, but it's worth coming.
I know.
It's worth coming to, for sure. Yeah. Well, and it's not only our presentation. There's 2 other presentations in the same workshop that also present on very exciting initiatives that contribute to digital equity. And but yeah, I think the online volunteering unit that we added in maybe the first year of the pandemic, it was pretty quick, right, Marika? Is a very good unit. And we also had requests of, I think, from
we had requests from who, Marika?
I'm not sure what he wanted to say. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah. So so this afternoon at 3:45 p.m. Pacific time. So wherever. No, sorry. Finish your sentence. Finish your sentence, Matthias.
No. That's okay. I was just sorry. Thank you, Sophie. I was just saying, yeah, that unit is important and contributes to that. And I think that it's that people were asking for that specifically, that unit. Many people. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. You go ahead. It's good that you jumped in. Thank you.
One more thing about that, about digital equity. I think if a volunteer takes this training, whether it's LaFib or TBLV, and that happens online, and their learners are also using Avenue in their link or click programs, then the volunteer will be even better able to help the learners with their language learning because they know how to use the platform because they receive their own training on that platform as well.
Yes.
Yes, exactly, Marika.
Very good example.
Yeah, so this afternoon, so 3:45 p.m. Pacific time. So wherever you are in Canada, you either deduct 1, 2, or 3, or you add 1, 2, or 3, or 4 hours, like Marika, where she is. So the workshop is going to be titled "Addressing Newcomers' Digital Literacy Gaps and Facilitating Their Integration Through Digital Education." So that's kind of, thank you so much, Marika, for doing this transition for us, telling about they will gain confidence online. So we would love to see you at 3:45 Pacific time, Matthias and I and Jill. Thank you so much. I think if there's no other questions, maybe thank you very much to everyone who attended the workshop, and you can now leave. Unless you have questions, you have all our details in the chat. Do not be shy, and you can email us anytime. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful afternoon. We'll see you later.
Thank you. Merci à tous. And thank you, Ryan, for facilitating as well.
Yes.